Hi there and welcome to day 19 of the 6-week challenge. So today is Saturday and it is after lunchtime now, and I've been for a nice walk as I did last week. Went for a nice little walk in the New Forest, which was great. Burnt about 576 calories on the walk, which is really good. We walked for about an hour and 10 minutes, and then went to our favourite little cafe where I had a coffee and my wife enjoyed something a bit more indulgent, but that was okay, and I was okay with it, which is nice. So today I want to talk to you about habits and how habits can affect what we do day in, day out. There's a book that I've been reading. I listened to an audio book about it. When I'm doing my exercise during the week, when I'm on my exercise bike, which is what I'm having to use while the chiropractor has said to me, hey, no more actual exercise or proper exercise or weights and stuff for 8 weeks. So anyway, to make it more bearable and to make it less boring and monotonous, I listen to audiobooks, and this one I'm listening to is all about the habit and the power of habit. And basically the premise behind it is that 60 to 70% of everything we do in life is basically habit. So your brain puts things into chunks, it chunks things down and makes them automatic so you don't have to think about them. If you drive, which probably most people watching these videos do, think about when you drive, you don't really think about it, you don't really think about changing gear, about indicating, about driving as a whole. It's become habit, and then we kind of chunk that down, those little tasks into it. Getting up in the morning, cleaning your teeth tends to be a habit. Cleaning your teeth before going to bed, habit. Most things, habit, and they're routines and habits. But it's also, there are habits that help us, but because of how we're built, we can also fall into habits that don't help us. And with all habits, there are 3 phases to the habit. There is a trigger, something that actually makes the habit happen. So for example, getting up in the morning, if it's a teeth cleaning thing, you're in the morning, you know you're going to go to work. So what do you do? Well, I know that's my trigger to go and clean my teeth. And there's a habit itself, which is the teeth cleaning. And then there's a reward element, the third part. So you've got the trigger, the habit itself, the action, and the reward that comes after it. And the reward that comes after it with teeth cleaning is the fact your mouth feels all tingly and nice. Now, if you look at your life in general and say eating habits and things that happen around that, you'll also find that there are triggers. There's the habit itself, and then there's a gratification or the feeling afterwards. So perhaps in the evening you're sat down there and you're thinking, you know what, I'm a bit knackered, a bit stressed, I might crack open a beer or have a glass of wine. So the trigger is your stress or your tiredness, the habit itself is the wine, and the gratification that comes afterwards is that feeling of like, that feels better. So you get some kind of feeling of reward or relaxation off the back of it. Now, to make a habit really indented and formed hard into you, that nice feeling afterwards has to become more like a craving. So something you actually really look forward to and actually feel like you can't do without. And then it becomes quite a formed habit in itself. Now, the idea behind changing habits is that there are 2 things you can do. One, you can try and create new habits. So when a trigger happens, you think, well, actually, I'm going to create a new habit which has a new reward off the back of it. So, for example, when people start an exercise routine, it may be that when they get up in the morning, they think, right, well, my new habit is I'm going to be exercising. You do your exercise, and then you get the rush of endorphins afterwards, and that's what you look forward to. So that is one of the theories behind habits. The second theory that sits behind habits is that changing bad habits into good habits. And the idea behind this is knowing that there are 3 parts to habits. So there is number 1, there is the actual trigger that happens that makes the habit want to happen. That number 2 is the actual action itself, and number 3 is the gratification. What you do is you replace the second part, so the actual thing that's bad, with something else that gives you a similar gratification, a similar feeling at the end of it. Now, I don't have a solid example to give you on that because although that can work and does work, there are failings within it, because actually, say for example, if we look at food, if you're eating a bag of sweets or a bag of crisps when you're feeling a bit stressed or hassle, and the gratification is at the end, I got that lovely carb rush, well, it's not easy to just replace that with something else. I mean, maybe that you might look to replace the actual food type with an apple or an orange and hope you get the carb rush off the back of it, but that's not necessarily going to work for you and work for most people. The question is, what do we actually do, and how can we actually start to tweak our habits and form habits without having to rely on those 2 ways? And the way we look at that is something called keystone habits. Now, a keystone habit is something which is potentially small and manageable, but actually when you start to do it, it impacts other parts of your life. So in the example of weight loss and trying to manage what you eat, there was an experiment done, and what they did is they asked people to start writing down a food diary, but not every day. Just what they wanted to do is just once a week. So there was only once a week, fill in a diary of what you do and don't eat for the day. So people started doing that, and they did it for one day, then they started doing it for several days, and they started doing it every day, and it started to become a habit. And once this habit had actually kind of got into place, they started to see patterns in what they were eating. So for example, they could see that at 10 o'clock every day, they might go for a can of soda or Coca-Cola or pop full of sugars. And they realized that actually there was a habit there. At 10 o'clock came around, the trigger, they would then have a drink, a sugary drink, which would be the actual habit. And then the reward would be like, I've just had a delicious sugary drink. So what they'll start to do is identifying that process. They'll then say, well, actually, what I'll try and do is replace that bad habit bit that's in there. So they might have a diet soda or a cup of tea with one sugar in it or something similar. So something that gave them some sense of after gratification, but replace the bad thing with the good thing. And so that's an example of a keystone habit, something which you can start to do, which is very simple, that can then start to fold into other parts of life. So another example is exercise, and even just a small bit of exercise. So for example, if you just do a little bit of walking every day, say you're going from relatively sedentary to say, okay, well, what I'm going to do is 3 times a week, not even every day, 3 or 4 times a week, I'm going to go out for a 25-minute walk. Now, when you start doing the walking, that becomes a habit, and it's pleasant because it's easy to do and it's quite achievable. But then when you start doing it, you start thinking, well, I'm doing this walking. Well, maybe I'll try and eat a little bit healthier. Maybe I won't have that bowl of cereal for breakfast. Maybe I will change that to some porridge, or maybe I will start to think about what I have for snacks. And maybe rather than having a bag of crisps for snacks, maybe I'll have an apple or an orange, or maybe I'll take a nice boiled egg as a snack. I mean, you start to make little shifts, little changes, which then start to become habit, because one of your main habits, the keystone habit, feeds into other ones without you kind of realizing it. So that's a potted history of some of the habits information, habit stuff that we can look at, and habit loops for you. This video has been almost pure information, so I hopefully you found it interesting. The book, I think, is called The Power of Habit, but worth Googling and having a look at. It is interesting stuff, and I will do some more videos talking about habits and give you some more ideas. I'm about 2/3 of the way through this book and what they told me, so there will be some other useful stuff, I'm sure, off the back of it. Anyway, it's been great chatting. I hope you have a brilliant weekend, and I will speak to you tomorrow, which is Father's Day here, going out for lunch. Can't wait. And yeah, can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.